Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining me for episode 4. In this video, we will talk about dealing with anger and letting go of complaining. Now, if you follow my previous episodes, we talked about writing things down, and I got a lot of great feedback from you as far as that topic is concerned, but this is also connected to this topic. Now, how do you deal with anger? All right. So this was a very difficult thing for me many years ago, and obviously there's going to be many variables to dealing with issues, and there can be a multitude of issues. They can be small, they can be big issues, but if you start with the small ones and you find a way to control them, so you can teach yourself good habits, just like we unknowingly learn bad habits, we can learn good habits. Now, as an example, say as many of us, if we were out there on the road and somebody cuts us off, that might trigger anger, and right away we become fearful. Something bad could happen. Next thing we know, we're focused on survival, and then when nothing happens, then we get angry and we want to lash out by either giving the finger or swearing or doing something. Now, this is something I practice, and maybe it might be helpful to you to try it, but on our little voices that we have inside our heads when something like that happens, is we start to think about it and dwell on the situation. So now, if it's been an hour or two and you're still thinking about the person that cut you off and you're angry, you're wasting time and you're wasting your thought energy on something that didn't really mean anything, and it was a short-lived thing, but now you carried it on. And if you go through your night and you're still angry about it, and worst off, if you're angry about it in the morning, now you wasted so much time thinking about that. So one of the things you can practice is called halt or stop. Now, that's something you can use and you can practice it, and to teach yourself when something bad like that happens and it's just such a small situation, you can just tell yourself to halt. And you can either say it out loud or you can say it inside your own thoughts and just say halt, and then really assess if it's even worth carrying on. Now I know this is a very difficult thing for people to do, because it's difficult to get over something that makes you angry, especially if all of you have been doing this for years and years and you've never practiced stopping yourself from carrying on. It can be a challenge, but if you start today, if you make a choice and say, well, I'm going to assess the situation and think about the time that you're wasting. If you're carrying on thinking about something that had no real consequence, it just made you mad at that moment or angry for that short amount of time, then squash it, leave it be, say halt in your mind, and then assess the situation and see if it's really worth carrying on. And you'll find that almost 90% of the time it's not even worth continuing to think about, and you can direct your thoughts in a different direction, in a more positive direction, and think about other stuff, think about more progressive things. And or you can say stop, just stop to yourself and be like, hey, is it really worth carrying on? Now let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is complaining, right? So if you have many years of being a complainer, and you have many different reasons why you complain, write that stuff down and see, and analyze it. So this goes back and it's connected to episode 1 and 2. It's about writing things down. So if you have a number of things that you complain about on a day, write them down on a piece of paper and think about, is it worth putting any time and effort into complaining about it? And you start to realize that most of the time, at least from a personal level, that it's not even worth thinking about anymore. And a lot of the stuff we complain about is meaningless. How something tastes, the color of a house, what somebody's action was. A lot of the times this doesn't really pertain to us. And say even if it does, how long do we want to continue to dwell on it or think about it? Is it really worth time and effort? Now again, you might have many years of training that bad complaining habit that you have. Now if you have that complaining habit, if you were able to form that over years, then you can also form a way to minimize it, by either practicing halt or stop, or you can write it down, analyze it, and really think about what you're complaining about? Is it really worth it? Is it even worth thinking about? Or could you put that energy into something that moves you forward, something else that you're going to give your thought time? That's very important now, because if you don't realize what you're doing, you can go on complaining for hours and hours on end. And we know many people that do that. I know a few, and I myself was one of those people, and from time to time I still find myself doing it, but it's less and less now. So what you can do is write the stuff down. At least that's what I did. And you start to realize, you start crossing it off, say that this is not even worth my time to even think about or be complaining about. So that's number 2, and that's the thesis of this video. Now let me know if any of this stuff helps you, or if you have these issues as far as anger and as far as complaining. Now I know it's a very difficult topic, and I'm sure there's probably other methods that you might have that you might want to share. And if you do, leave a comment down below and let me know what you do to deal with anger and complaining. Now these are 2 things that I still am working on as I develop, but I have learned that now, by minimizing both of those things, that I have more time to think about things that are going to be more progressive and more positive and take me in a better direction. All right, thank you for joining me for episode 4. I hope you guys check out 1, 2, and 3. And for all those of you who have made comments and who have shared your thoughts and ideas on this motivational conversation, I appreciate you, and I welcome all your thoughts. Bye.